Hey guys, Ian here, back with another video. It is now February, and this is my first draft of February. And it's also the first draft since patch 1.28 with the new changes to some of the cards. But the most important change is that your second Dusk Road pack is now being passed to you from the same player that passes you the first Dusk Road pack, which was not the case before. And because of this change, I think you're going to be able to draft a lot more consistent theme-based decks. But the order hasn't changed though. I still believe is pack 1 is the Dusk Road and pack 4 is Dusk Road, which is kind of counterintuitive. So let's just see here. So one notable change for Justice is the silence. The 5 to cast silence 3/4 unit is now a 4 to cast silence unit is a 3/2. But keep that in mind. It does changes the deck a little bit. It makes it a little less good at clumping up the ground. Miner's Musket is pretty decent. I think the special ability is it could be really amazing if you can get a 6-drop on turn 4 or a 5-drop on turn 3. That's really powerful. But you're just as likely to hit a 2 casting cost, a 3 casting cost unit that you can play for 1. But even then, that is okay. So I think this is actually a pretty decent rare. The Record Keeper, of course, is just it's a 4/4 for 3. It's amazing. All you need in draft ever really is just really big bodies. When you have them early enough and you have enough of them, you can basically overwhelm your opponent and crush them on the ground. As long as you have enough. Having 1 or 2 isn't good enough because your opponent can have a bunch of 2/2s and 2/3s. But if you have a bunch of cheap to cast 4/4, 3/5/5s, then you can overwhelm their defenses and do too much damage to them too fast. So I think my favorite cards in this pack is probably just the Miner's Musket and the Record Keeper here. I'm also a pretty big fan of Sandbinder's Sentinel, but if I was gonna pick a time card, I may as well pick the Record Keeper because it's just really fast and really aggressive. But with that said, this is a single influence and this is a double influence. So starting the pack with a double influence card is not on a theory crafting level. You prefer to stay single color as long as you can. But there's no guarantees that we'll play any of the cards anyway, because you don't know how the deck will, how the rest of the pack will flow. I think I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the Musket here. Actually, it's just a 2 damage. Actually, this is just a 2 damage removal spell. Maybe it's not good enough. The chance of reducing something by 2 may not be relevant enough. Let's take a look at these 2 cards here. There's the Sentinel and the Keeper. So basically, I am just deciding, do I want to start with a possibly slightly more raw power but double faction, or a very solid card in a single faction? This card is almost never bad. I'm actually gonna go start with a single faction. I think okay. So a couple of different reasons, right? One, I do really like the strategy of starting with single factions as possible. That way you can stay open on pack 2, so that if you can finish pack 1 with the majority of your cards in a single faction, that is really good for you. That way you can pick up any bomb that you open in second pack and just pick that as your second color and not lose out on anything. That you're not, unlike if you had 50-50 of 2 different factions on pack 1, and then you open a card on pack 2 that's a third faction. Now you have to make sacrifices. Another reason is because I think the tribal theme decks should be better now that the second Dusk Road pack is being passed to you from the same player. So the possibility of drafting a cohesive theme tribal deck like Sentinel is higher, and there's no real Minotaur decks. So maybe that edges the Sentinel a little bit over, just because it's a tribal theme that's quite good. Let's just try that out. Let's see. I think this dinosaur is a little too expensive, even when you can bond and discount it. I like both of the Justice cards enough. And I think I don't like any of the other cards at all. I think this common is quite good, but you can pick up very late usually. You can these are just 6-drop dorks that you can pick up many of. You can always get 6-drop fatties in any sets and very late in the draft. This is not very good. I'm not gonna pick up a Waystone early. The Scrap Hound has gotten better. In fact, I do kind of like this in the late game, but it's a terrible turn 1 play because you don't really want a 1-mana 1/1 anyway, a 1 power 1/1 anyway. This is mediocre. So I guess really is just looking at the uncommons here. And it's worth noting that there are no time cards. So the rare is missing. So the person who passed me this pack picked a time rare, and I think that's gonna encourage him to continue to pick time cards. So I think we might be out of luck here. I think time is gonna get cut because as long as I mean, it may even be a time legendary, in which case he's definitely gonna be in time, right? So let's start looking at a second color here. Maybe we'll start with dinosaurs because if theme decks is our thing, this themed dinosaur is not bad. Not bad at all. Let's just go ahead and try that out. I've drafted the flying, the Justice flying decks too much. I think I've had quite a few different videos where I drafted this archetype. So just for the sake of making this video, let's try and see if we can get a workable dinosaur archetype. Just to do something new and, fresh. So these are both playable Justice cards. Seems like Justice might be open. This time card, I don't think it's a sign that time is open, and definitely not these two. Unfortunately, there are no primal cards, so that means someone took that. So our first pick is time, but someone took a time card from last pack, the only time card. Our second pick was primal, and someone took the only primal card in this pack. So we're in bad shape here. So if we're not going to be limiting ourselves to any particular faction, I'm going to go ahead and pick up this Headsman's Axe. It's very late game. It's very conditional. I think there's going to be a number of games where you draw this card and it's not good. But I think this card can actually just win games on its own. So I think it's a high risk, high reward, raw power kind of a card. And I'm going to go ahead and take it. I think those are the kind of cards you kind of want in your first few picks. Okay, so a couple of Primal cards, but these are certainly not signs that Primal is open. There have been no Yetis so far, but I don't know if that's a thing. Time is still here. This is a playable time card. This is mediocre. The Justice cards are also fine. So it appears to me that every faction has a playable card except for blue. You would only play this card, I think, if you were specifically playing Yetis. So I don't see any clear signals at all. Just gonna pick the best card. I'm thinking of picking this 4-power 3/1 flying unit. That might be the best card. Headsman's Axe, of course, works really well with evasive threats like this one. But the Excavator is also quite good. A 3-power 2/3 flyer is fine, perfectly playable. A lot of options here. I guess when in doubt, pick the slightly cheaper card. Let's just pick up the 3-drop instead. There's the first Yeti that we see. Wow, okay. So Justice seems to be open. All 3 of these are good Justice cards. So we're gonna jump into Justice now. It's not too late. We're only 5th pick in. So Justice is gonna be our primary color because this looks super open. In between these 3 cards, I might just gonna pick up the Reinvigorate, because it's a very cheap combat trick that often acts as a removal spell. The unfortunate thing is the person that we're passing to is going to see Justice as being open for sure, because these are both very good green cards. Let's just pick up the Reinvigorate and hope we can get more of these commons later. Yeah, so Primal is super cut. We can see that by now. And but I think Justice, Time, and Shadow are okay. So I guess at this point, I'm also pretty happy picking up this giant Sentinel because we have a really very good Sentinel and then also a tribal that cares about Sentinel. So I think this card's quite good in our deck if we stick with Time. This card is not amazing enough. Like even if I was playing Justice, I'm not gonna miss this card. And if I was playing Shadow, I may not. Well, this card's actually quite a lot better. I think it's going to be between the Patrol and the Sentinel. Let's go ahead and grab the Sentinel here, because we do have a bit of a tribal theme with Sentinel, and Sentinels are quite good. This card is fine when you have enough Sentinels relics, but you also kind of want some cards that can let you benefit from having things in your void, and that's hard to come by. But I think Cryptic Edgings is so good. This card is, when games go long, this card is amazing. I'm pretty happy playing 2 copies of this in any deck. Okay, so that's a thing. Okay, so we're just gonna take this. I mean, this card's so good. We were considering first picking it, and now it looks like Combray is open. Oh, not anymore. Units have +1 or get another Sentinel themed card. I think we'll just go ahead and pick up this other Sentinel themed unit. Destruction versus the Shoveler. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Shoveler. We don't have any gunslingers, do we? Yeah, no. Let's just pick up this machete. Perfectly playable. So red is almost always open in this set. I find it's very rare to see red not open. Ooh, Spirit Guide is quite powerful. Green. So Justice is cut. It's just Combray is open. So we got past this late Record Keeper, but that doesn't tell us that Justice is open. In fact, we didn't see too many Justice cards. After that pack where we saw 3 good Justice cards with the Invigorate, the Spirit Stalker, or Blade Stalker, whatever it's called, and the 2/1 Flying Valkyrie. After that pack, we didn't see any more. So I think Justice may not be open, but I don't think it matters too much. I think regardless, we're just gonna pick up this Archive Curator. It's the best card in the pack. This is one of my favorite commons in the entire set. One of my favorite commons in all 3 sets, actually. And it's one of the biggest reasons to be in time. I think this card is better than the Spirit Guide, so even if green was open, I would still consider picking the Curator over it. But in this case, green is certainly not guaranteed to be open. So let's just go ahead and pick up our primary color, a very good card in our primary color first. Shadow was cut, so we can't. Yeah, Shadow was cut enough, so we can't play Extract. I don't think. I'm not gonna pick up a blue card. This is a terrible time card. So I guess our only option here really is the Praxis Stranger or the Roosting Owl. The Stranger will play for sure, which is really good. The Roosting Owl is very strong, but only if we're in green. Let's just pick up the 2-drop that we're guaranteed to play. Our curve is looking not great. We have a 1-drop that does nothing. You typically don't want to use this on turn 2 anyway. And then our 2-drops are things that don't impact the board in any way. So I think picking up an early unit. Also, Praxis is potentially the colors that we'll be in. So this is a very good color fixing as well. So that's not a very difficult pick there. So both of these are playable green cards. So I think red, notably red is cut. And Praxis is not nearly as good when you only have 1 pack of Omens. Some of the best Praxis cards are, like the Purifies and things like that. Because when you only have 1 pack of Omens, especially some of the really good red cards that you want to be in Praxis for, like the Cannon Bear, you only have 1 pack for it. So I think that makes me not care too much about being in Praxis. I'm gonna try and make this Combray deck work. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up this Minotaur Oathkeeper, I think. Okay, that's not a card. That's also not a card. It's really hard to make this, to trigger this thing. But we're not gonna play anything else in this pack, I don't think. So we have a small chance of splashing red, but that's not a card I'm going to splash for anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's just go ahead and pick up the Fencing Master over the... The only reason for picking up the Discipline Amanera is that there's a common relic in Dusk Road that allows you to pay a power to gain a life every turn, and that is a potentially good combo, but both of the cards are really bad on their own, and it's only worth it if you pick up many copies of both. That way you're guaranteed to have the combo. Yeah, we'll pick it up as a speculative pick and see how that goes. Really happy with Sandstorm. I'm gonna go ahead and take this over not much else. Very late Cyclops. At this point, do I want to pick up another Praxis Stranger, or am I gonna pick up a Zenith Stranger? But we've seen no signs or any reasons why we want to splash Shadow yet. The Headsman's Axe is unfortunately not splashable because there's double influence requirement. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and pick up this other Stranger here. Oh yes, this is exactly why you want to be in time. This is one of the best commons. Very happy to pick it up as a 2. Whew, yes. All we need now is a bunch of flyers, and we're in good shape because our ground is held up very well. This is a good playable trick. I've lost games to this trick before. We'll pick up the Trail Runner and not play it. Vanilla 6 power 5/5. We actually have a bit of a Life Force sub theme here with the Cult Aspirant, the Disciplined Manera, and the Voyaging Lumen. We're actually going to pick up that 1 power relic that lets you gain life if we see it on the 4th pack. Ageless Mentor, yes. This card is bonkers. This card is so powerful. You play this card on turn 3 with a couple of 4 or 5 drops in your hand, and you're going to win the game. A 4 drop, like a 3/6 creator or a 6/8 Sentinel on turn 5, it's just way too big for its power cost. That kind of stats efficiency, it's just really hard for any deck to deal with. I think this card is a certified bomb. I'm gonna pick this over. I think the only other card we might consider here is the Seek Power, but Ageless Mentor is just a bomb. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. Ooh, I'm actually really happy to pick up the Amber Monument. One of the problems I have with Eternal is always power-related issues, power flood, power screw. This allows you to play an extra power that acts as a power in the early game when you need it the most, and acts as a unit when you are later in the game where you need the power less. So monuments are just a godsend, and there's pretty much only 2 playable monuments. Well, I guess 2 best ones. The blue one and the time one are the best, with the green one being next, and then the other 2 monuments you typically don't want to play. But this one is one of the best, so we're gonna be very happy picking it up. Synchronized Strike is actually a pretty good trick, but I think I already have a trick in Reinvigorate, and Sandstorm is kind of a trick defensively speaking. So I think I'm gonna pass up on the trick now and just pick up a solid 2/5 blocker. This is actually a 4/7 unit with Ageless Mentor, and 4/7s are really good for attacking into your opponent. Both Elysian cards, not for me. Inspire is fine, but I'm pretty happy picking up a playable 4-drop here. Watchwing has a pretty high upside when we clock up the ground. A 1/1 flyer with Warcry is pretty good, but a Zen and Guardian is really big late in the game. I guess the question is, do I want a card that's much better in the early to mid game, that's kind of helps me build momentum towards the late game, or a card that's just really good when you top deck it on turn like 8 or 9? Because if you top deck this card on turn 8 or 9, it's pretty miserable. But if you top deck this, it's very good. This is a tough one. Another consideration too is because I only have 1, 2, 3, and 4 Justice cards. There's still a chance that I can fall out of Justice. So I think for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Zen Guardian here. Excavate could be useful. Rebuy any one of your best cards at the cost of card disadvantage, or I might just go ahead and splash this Accelerated Evolution. This card's just this card is really hard to beat. You know what? I'm just gonna take the Accelerated Evolution and hope that I will pick up enough fixing to be able to play it, because this card's just so powerful. Wrangler. No, not enough units for this to work. Watchwing or Longsword or the Banner. The Banner will help me with color fixing quite a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the Banner over the Watchwing and the Longsword, actually. I do like the Watchwing here. I don't like the Longsword quite as much when I don't have very many evasive threats. fact, I only have like one flyer, right? One, two, potentially two flyer in the early game. So that's and slapping a longsword onto just a vanilla unit is not the greatest. Although a 3/4 deadly is not bad, but your opponent can still trade a 4/4 for it, and it's just it's a 2-for-1 trade in his favor. Right? Not great. I'm gonna go ahead and take up this combat banner for the color fixing. I'm gonna take up this other combat banner for the color fixing because I don't have enough strangers to make this great. Don't care about that too much. Yep, Mithril Mace is perfectly playable. And this Copper Hall Recruit is perfectly playable. And this other Copper Hall Recruit is perfectly playable. At this point, we're not going to play them both. This Camo is actually not bad. If we can splash it. And we do have a bunch of Life Force cards. We are already trying to splash blue for the Accelerated Evolution. We could splash the Camo as well. So it's actually not a bad last or second last pick. That helps with consistency and some late game draw power, but I don't know, I'm not a super big fan of things that is useless in the early game and you have to wait until late game with a lot of power to use it. The power cost is very real even in the late game, because if you're doing this on turn 6, then you're not doing something else on turn 6. That's expensive. It's unlikely to get cast. We don't have any dinosaurs to bond it with. The Soaring Guard is fine, but not amazing by any stretch. I'm actually thinking about this Time Sworn Sentinel. This Sentinel is not bad. Ironically enough, over the Soaring Guard. The Soaring Guard just doesn't do enough when I don't have a deck that builds upon flying units, like making it bigger by putting weapons onto it. By having a 1/2, by doing 1 damage per turn, in that deck like mine, it's just not that great. I'm gonna take up this Time Worn Sentinel. I know that I can pick this up quite later on as well, whereas this may not come back. But I have no dinosaurs, so unless I'm drawing all dinosaurs for the rest of the pack, this is gonna be really expensive. And if I'm drawing all dinosaurs for the rest of the pack, then I've lost this draft because I didn't draft any dinosaur themes, right? I just drafted, I have a bunch of Sentinels and just a bunch of other cards. So, yeah, let's go ahead and pick up this Sentinel here. Yeah. Ooh, Stone Scar Scrapper. I guess the Porter is perfectly fine. I don't have a lot of 2-drops, and this is a 2-drop that I'm happy to trade off, and it also helps me fetch power. I actually like this card enough. I'm gonna go ahead and pick it second. More so than a Crown Watch Legionnaire in a deck that has no way to pump it. This is pretty good. Put it onto a flying unit, although we have very few of those. Put it onto a big unit or flying unit or something that has gotten accelerated, that has evolved, right? Then it's not too bad. Because other than that, this card benefits my opponent just as much as it benefits me. I don't really care about the 1/1 flying on turn 1. I don't have any cards to spark with it, and I don't have enough weapons to carry. This is the weapon it could carry, but even then, it's only a 3/2. It just gets blocked by a random flyer, so not great, not great. Ooh, Entrapment. Now this. Oh no. Dare I pick up the Ancient Bubble? For the sweet interaction here? Over, like, the best removal spell that I can get? Because I don't even have removal right now. I have 0 removal spells. Mithril Mace is kind of a pseudo removal that cares about the size of the unit. And then I have a Sandstorm that allows me to ambush flying units, and then 2 Vipers that trade. But I don't have any real removal spells. So this is oh man. Ooh, this is hard. The problem with not picking the Ancient Bubble is then is that I have to cut this and cut this, and I can still play the Lumen, but I lose 2. I'm gonna take this bubble, and here's the reason why. Because if you have the bubble and you have one of those units, it's really hard to lose the game because you gain a lot of life and you have a unit that grows every single turn by +1/+1. If the game is at a stalemate and the ground's clogged up, soon enough these units are so gigantic. How are they gonna ever kill it? Unless they have another, deadly blocker. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the Ancient Bubble over the premium Entrapment. But the fact that Entrapment is there also tells me that Justice is super open. I'm gonna take out another bubble. That makes me really sad, because if I didn't take the bubble last time, now I could have one bubble and one Entrapment rather than having two bubbles. That makes me really, really sad. This can bring the bubble back if it gets killed. Now. 2 power, 2/2. That's fine. I don't have any gunslingers. I don't have any weapons to put things onto. I just have one. So this thing is going to be a 2/2, but 2 power, 2/2. I'll still play it. Yep. This is a perfectly playable 3-drop. Wow, Justice is so open. I don't believe I have any Valkyries. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have 0 Valkyries, so that's not good. The Porter is fine. Yeah, this same reason. No, I have very few weapons, and no Valkyries. This loses a lot of its flexibility. I can take the Legionnaire, or I can take the Porter. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Porter. Ooh, this is like a terrible removal spell. But I have no removal spells. Ooh, things are not looking great. Let's just take the Watchman here. Ooh, hey, that's great. It's a 3 power 2/1 flying unit in our deck. But still good, still good. Alright. This draft did not go super well. We were having a really tough time in pack 1 trying to figure out what was open. I think we had a good idea what was not open, but we were super shaky on like Justice felt open in the middle of the pack 1, but then I felt it was not open at the end of pack 1, so that made me kind of scared of going to time. Sorry, Justice, green, Justice. And also in the 4th pack, like well, I guess 4th pack, Justice was super open in the 4th pack, but Time was no longer open. But I guess we kind of guessed that Time wasn't open because we knew that the person passing to us took a Time rare or a legendary, so we knew that there was an incentive for this person to cut us on Time. What was really unlucky is we didn't get any Time cards on the other direction in the Empty Thrones pack, where all of the Time common dinosaurs were really good, and we didn't pick up any of them. No, don't have enough Sentinels and relics for this to be good, although this is a relic. Let's just treat this as an actual card. Yeah, we're gonna play the Disciplined... We're gonna play all of our Life Force cards, basically. I think we're going to win a lot of games. Well, if we win. If we win, we'll win a lot of games off of the power of the Ageless Mentor. This plus Ageless Mentor just clocks up the ground so well. I'm gonna see if I can find a way to make the Accelerated Evolution work, but I'm not gonna bother splash a camo there. And the reason I'm optimistic is because we picked up 2 Combray banners. And we also have 2 Praxis Strangers, which will give us the time. So I have a feeling that we may be able to play less time sigils. So 36 cards. This deck looks somewhat expensive and mana intensive, so we're going to want to play 18 power. Because you want to use your power for edgings, you want to use your power for activating the bubble, for example. So 18. Oh, power. Whoa, we have to cut 9 cards out of this. Gee, that's a lot of cards to cut. That's a lot of cards to cut. Oh, no, we'll play 16 power. We'll count this as a power for now. So we'll cut 8 cards. I think the Town Watchman can get cut pretty easily. How many Explorers do I have left? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We have a total of 1 Explorer. That's looking pretty sad. Let's just cut that. And we have 2 Sentinels for this. That's also looking really sad. Alright, let's just cut that then. So much for our Sentinel themed deck. Crown Watch Legionnaire is super weak in our deck, so let's just cut that. Very easy to cut. These other top ends are quite good. This is good. Oh, we don't need 3 copies of the Copperheart Recruiter. Just cut 2 copies. Keep 1. Now we have to cut just 2 more cards. With 20 units, 5 attachments, and 4 spells, I think the number of spells and attachments are fine. The number of units, I kind of like having a high unit count. Maybe having 2 Copperheart Porters in my deck means I can get away with less power. 15 power seems no, 16 power seems really sketch though. I think 16 power is something I'm not willing to do. We'll keep the Envelop just because it's sometimes it saves you. Oh, Praxis Stranger. Oh no, I think I would like the Praxis Strangers just because I want them for the time influence. Because I'm thinking of cutting time influence to fit in some primal. This card's too powerful not to make an effort to splash. This card is terrible in our deck. Let's just cut it. We have no weapons to put onto it, except for 1, or to put on something anyway. But even as a 3/3 attacker, it's super lackluster. So right now we are at 17 power then? Yeah? Yeah, okay. I think I can try that. Because you can kind of treat these as power. You may be able to find power with etchings. Yeah, let's try it out. Let's see if we can make the power base work here. So that gives us 3 sources of primal for the accelerated evolution. I think that's okay. That's okay. That gives us 7, 8, 9, 10. This gives us 11 primal. Sorry, 11 time, which I think is too much. And 7 justice, which I think is too little. So cut 2 of these. That gives us 9 time and 7. 9 time and 9 justice, which I think is much better. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, okay. 9 time and 9 justice. Yeah. Okay, let's just go 8 justice. We'll go 10 and 8. And that gives us a total of 17 power, which includes the Amber Monument, but also we have 2 porters to help us find more power when we need it. Yeah, this deck looks alright. I think the deck is really weak in the air. We don't have a lot of air defenses. We have practically no removal spell, so we are relying on Sandstorm and the Silence effect to deal with flying units. Or I guess make our own if we're lucky enough to draw this card. And then we have a couple of pseudo removal spells that care about the opponent's health. So if there's a giant flying unit, for example, this won't do. So we're really weak in the air, and really weak in the air. We're okay on the ground. We have a lot of high health units that can clog up the ground, but we have very few ways to actually win the game because our units, unless we draw Accelerated Evolution and give some of our big units flying, we don't have a lot of ways to actually hit our opponent. Once the ground is clogged, a lot of our units that have low attack and very high health isn't going to be very good at attacking into your opponent, right? Even this flying unit is not very good at attacking into your opponent. So that's problematic. I think our best chance to win this game is 1, to draw Accelerated Evolution, 2, to draw Ancient Bubble and then the Life Force cards and just pump them by 1 or 2 every single turn and basically have it outgrow your opponent's entire board. Or 3, draw Ageless Mentor and then curve out into giant units on turn 4 and 5 and crush your opponent with just sheer size too fast, too early. That strategy doesn't work later in the game once the ground is starting to get clogged up. But I think those are our different avenues of attack. Our power base is okay, not great. So this deck is a solid maybe 7 out of 10, 6.5, 7 out of 10, I would say. So if we can do 5-3 with this deck, I'll be pretty happy. Anything better than that is great. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we go something like 3-3. This deck's not amazing. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed that draft. For those of you who are new to my channel, and I've been getting a lot of new subscribers, what I try my best to do is do a good mixture of drafting content and also ranked content. And with constructed content, or ranked content, I guess, I also try to do a balance between fun gimmicky decks that people would be excited to try out, because once you get bored of Eternal or once you get into Masters, you don't have a lot of incentive to be competitive. And then also a good mixture of competitive decks as well for those of you who are still trying to climb ladder and still trying to improve your game and get those ranks. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let's go into the games.